Hello everyone, today I'm working on this RSD15 which I picked up at the train show last year. I'll put a link in the description to that video. But anyways, 15 bucks as is. That looks like a pretty good deal to me. Now I never ran this, I only looked at it just to make sure. Actually, I put my test leads on it just to see if I had something, which I did. Now this is the early version, MRC, which I think is pretty good quality. Anyway, we'll find out. Let's go try it on the track just to see how well it runs. It's got the microtrains conversion. That's worth about 15 bucks, that alone. Anyways, let's see how it runs. So it might need a little wheel cleaning. I kind of expected that. I'll just crank it up a little bit. Yeah, it needs a wheel cleaning big time. I'll crank it up some more. Okay, so it needs a lot of wheel cleaning, but it's gonna run, so it's starting out good. Yeah, it needs a lot of wheel cleaning. That's okay. I know what to do about that. But just look at this thing. Other than a little dust, it looks brand new. My theory is the person who owned it didn't like it, so they never ran it. Like, all the handrails are there. That's wonderful. The horns there, everything's there. It's basically brand new, except that it doesn't run. So if you want to spot that generation, if you're looking at trains on eBay, you want to spot that generation of trains, which is so-so. Anything that has tabs on the bottom there to hold the frame in, it's from that generation that is so-so runners. I would spend a little bit more money and get the newer version, which has pickup strips on the bottom there. You know, the Atlas or Kato ones. Get the newer generation. So I'm taking my time with this because it's basically mint. So I want to remove the shell carefully. It didn't fight me. It's just that me, I wanted to be extra careful. It doesn't get any more simpler than that. One of my subscribers, when I did the RSD12 before, it was maybe a Model Power or AHM was the other manufacturer. And he said that the early version MRC had directional lighting. So since I have everything in my hands, I can actually test this out. We can have some fun with this. So that little circuit board is really neat. I'm gonna come in with that. So yeah, forward. Just have to find the right spot. Let's see what we got there. So forward, and then if I switch it around, I'm not sure I have the exact correct place to hit that, but the lights still work, and they are directional, so that's kind of neat. Yeah, so they are directional, so that's kind of neat. It's not super dirty, so I'm just going to take a look what we got there. It does need these weights to run. So everything's visible, everything looks to be in okay condition. The trick to these is always to get to the wheels. you cannot just pull the trucks off because they're wired in. You can see the wires, and often I've seen it where the little wires, they get disconnected here. So it's worth, when you first open these up, it's worth doing an inspection. Make sure that they are not disconnected. At any rate, to get to the wheels, these soldering points there, they look okay. So to get to the wheels, all you gotta do is you can drop the axle here. So go ahead and drop that. Nice and easy. Go ahead and drop that. That seems to be a little tight for what I'm used to. Yeah, it's pretty tight. So there you go, just drop the little axle, and then you have maybe a little bit of wiggle room, but that should be enough to allow me to work the side frames out. So the side frames, you basically have to wiggle them around. I'm gonna see if I can just get them over that hump there. If I could do that, it would make it a lot easier. No, it looks like I'm gonna have to wiggle them around. So you bring them down, keep the gearbox in place, and bring your side frames down. Once you have your side frames down, you just wiggle them out. That's gonna go to be cleaned. And then you have access to your wheels. There's also a little gear in here that once the axle is gone, that becomes free. So I am gonna take it out. I take my time to do that. I don't want to pull too hard on my wires. So I take it out and we'll clean that and relubricate that before we put it back in. I don't want to mess with the wires. I don't pull on that too hard. And then I'm just going to remove the wheels one at a time and clean them. That sounds like a good plan. Also take note, you have traction tires at the end. So these wheels supply no power to the tracks, but they supply power from the track, but they don't have a gear, so they don't turn. So that still helps, but not that much. So you just wiggle your wheels out of the axles. Do just a little bit at a time. And then that's that. I don't know if you like working on N-scale engines. I do. But it will happen that the parts just fly off and land on the floor. This one, it doesn't have tiny little parts. The only tiny part on this is the horn, and I don't have to fix that, so I'm thankful for that. Okay, so you can see this wheel is rubbing against the pickup strip, and this one just about is not rubbing, and the middle one doesn't rub at all against the pickup strip. So that probably why it wasn't running that well. You often need to have a little bit of tuning on these. So this one was rubbing, and this one maybe sort of kind of rubbing. So yeah, you have to tune them up. We will do that. And the little contact strips, they have a pocket where they sit. Once the wheel is out, you can remove them from the little pocket. And then you can get your gearbox out. I don't know if you can see the way this is shiny, but this engine had plenty of lubrication. The lubrication doesn't fix everything. You need some, but too much lubrication, it does not fix everything. So this gearbox should not be very hard to open. And then we'll get in there and have a good look. There's a metal tab here. I've never seen that before. I have no clue what that is. And I've done lots of these types of engine. When I started out in N scale, I had some model power engines that they weren't very good. So this is just for suspension. That's all it is. So that I've never seen that before. I have to say that's kind of cool. Yeah, there's plenty of wiggle room for this. So that's the suspension, okay. And we'll remove the axles. Get everything cleaned. And there's kind of an idler gear here. Get that clean too. So get everything clean, then we'll put it back together. The contact strips, I just do them with my finger, just like that. Now these look quite a bit oxidated, but as they rub against the wheel, it will remove the oxidation. So I'm just going to remove the extra lubrication with my fingers, and that will be good. And the wheels, I'll just do them with my rag. And they are nice. You know, unlike the MDC roundhouse, they are nickel silver, so that helps quite a bit. So I just do them twice just to be sure. You can see my rag is quite a bit black, so I do them all around. So there we go, squeaky clean. I do like the way they look. It's like jewelry. So I'll do the other 5. This has plenty of lubrication. I'm just gonna clean it with my rag because it's not a nightmare. So I'm just gonna clean it with my rag, and that should be good for that. Just making sure there's no pet hair in it, but that's looking good. MRC Yugoslavia. So I might add a little bit more of my own, but I'm going to be keeping just this original lubrication. Just cleaning everything with my rag, and then when I'm happy, I'll move on to the gears. The gears, I will do them with my tap and some dish soap and my toothbrush. I'll keep working on that till I'm happy with it. Taking everything apart like that sure makes it easy. So I have my little gearbox ready. I'm gonna add the lubrication here and by these little gears. And then I'll start putting everything back together. And then the little idler one. And then this one that has its little suspension. That little suspension one is actually not that hard to put back. It has this little hole for it, and you just have to line it up properly. It'll just go right in there. I have to do it under magnification though. Its axle holds it in place too. Then I'll bring the other side of the gearbox in. Whoops, I'll put just a tiny bit of lubrication on that. You don't need a lot, but Since I have everything out, that makes it easy. Then you just line everything up. And then you can test it. Should be pretty easy to turn. Now I'm going to do some modification. You can see originally the traction tires were at the end. You can see the contact strips there. They put more tension on the two external axles. So I'm going to put the traction tires in the middle. So that should help me with power pickup. So let's do that. Let's put the traction tires in the middle. Actually, I should bring this up into the frame before I put the wheels on. That way I can do it right. So let's start by that. I'm going to put the contact strips in the gearbox. Actually, I'm going to put this little top gear in its place right now. You can see to line it up, I'm going to put something white behind there so you can have a little clue. To line it up properly, once it's inside the engine, you can't move it anymore, but you can use the gears to move it, to line it up for the little axle to go in. So I'm going to put the contact strips on the gearbox now. I can't do it on camera because I need magnification to see what I'm doing. And I'm gonna put just a little bit more spring action into them. Just enough so that they do contact the wheels pretty hard. I want them to contact the wheels pretty hard, but not too hard. Yeah, this side looks good. I'll do a little bit on this side. And that should be enough. And then I'll bring in my wheels. And my microtrain's height gauge now is very easy to get at now. I use it a lot every time I do this. So absolutely, you want these to be lined up perfectly. They could go in a little bit more, but you don't go crazy on that. Bring them in so that they're just perfect. This is the perfect time to do this. I'll bring in my two other sets of wheels. There are ways to clean the wheels without, maybe just a little bit more. There are ways to clean the wheels without removing everything like this. But for me, I like to do this. Yeah, just a little bit more. The wheels are wider than they should be, and now I went too much. They're wider than they should be, so they can reach a little bit more towards the middle, and the engine will stay on the track. In fact, it'll help it to go around curves. So I'll keep tuning this till it's where I'm happy. The traction tires, I don't go too hard on them because they're really old. Oh, I forgot to wash this. I'm gonna go wash this right now. I did the shell at the same time. It's really neat, this shell. It's got an added brake wheel, and it's in good shape. The horn's there, all the handrails are there. Really neat. $86.15, that looks about right for Pennsylvania. So then I can bring this in. I have to wiggle it around. So I wiggle it here and then over the fuel tank side. Maybe I start with the fuel tank this time. Start with the fuel tank, wiggle it over. Oh, look at that, I'm upside down. No wonder it won't fit. Look at that. There I thought I was perfect and I never made any mistakes. If only I could learn humility, then I would truly be perfect. And then I have to wiggle this around. And yes, everything's looking good. I have to put my my bar yet. I'm starting to shape up good. So I just got to line up my gear so I can put my shaft in. And then on the shaft I will put just a little bit of lubrication also. Just one drop is good. And then that's it, wiggle it till it goes in. And then line up the other side. And then I will also, at this point, I will also try it with some power on there. The shaft seems to be very easy to turn, so that's a good sign. I am going to put just a little bit of lubrication on the motor shaft here. I'm going to put a lot because it has to penetrate. So I'm going to keep it angled like that to give it a chance to penetrate. And I'll even run it with my test leads. So I run it with its test leads, and I want to run it the absolute lowest setting. I want to turn it very slowly because if I give it too many RPMs, it will just throw the oil out. So I'll run it like that for a little bit just to give a chance for the oil to penetrate. And I'll also remove this little cover to take a look at my worm gear. Looks real good. You can see it's got two little brass bearings on each end. So that is really good stuff. Just give it a drop and maybe one drop on the worm gear. That should be real good. You can see there's a crack in the there's a crack right here in the drive shaft. Doesn't seem to keep it from running. So I'll run it again like that at a very slow speed. And I will do the exact process for the exact same process for the other side. Alright, so that's shaping up well. Let's test it on the bench just to see where we're at. So that's running pretty well. Now let's go try it on the track. Running on the bench, it's easy. It's on the track that's the real test. So here comes the moment of truth. It's actually a good runner, nice and slow. And let's try the other side. So that's really cool. Now all that's left to do is put the shell back on. I forgot which way was the front and which way was the rear. I mean, I can go and look back at my photos, so that's kind of good to have that. But you see the pins that hold the body are not parallel. Also, there's two air tanks over here that should help me out if I find photos of the prototype, but the pins are not symmetrical. So there's only one way this can go back. See, the pins don't line up like that. Now the pins line up. So there you go. Oh, something else I found that was really neat about the shell. They put metal plates to protect the shell against burning out because the bulbs can get hot. The LEDs can get hot too, but they don't. They don't get really hot. But the incandescent bulb, you got to be really careful. Oh, and these grills here, they're see-through just like the real engine. So that is very cool. I really like that. Although you won't be able to see anything because of the counterweight and the worm gear. So instead of struggling with this too much, I'm gonna do it off camera. Yeah, the little weights were on there tight. Tight like a tiger. That snapped in great. All right. And now it's time to run some trains. I wanted you guys to hear it. It makes a little bit more noise with the shell on. But it's still manageable. I don't hate this. This actually is pretty cool. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly had fun making it for you. See you soon.